Our season in reviews continue on today with the Philadelphia Flyers here up next, who finished as the fourth worst team in the NHL. For the Flyers, it's the fifth straight year they have missed the playoffs, tied for the longest drought in franchise history, which is kind of crazy in their 50-year history. This is only the second time this has happened. But overall, it's been a struggle for the Flyers the last 5 to 6 to 50 years, honestly. 50 years ago, yesterday, was the last time the Flyers won a Stanley Cup. And at this point in time, they're building something, but they don't look particularly close to a Stanley Cup something. So in 22-23, let's go back to a couple of seasons ago. In the last year of Chuck Fletcher and the Danny Briere era, transitioning over to that, they went 31, 38, and 13 for 75 points. They were 26th in the National Hockey League. It was a pretty bad season. They fired Chuck Fletcher midway through the year. It was John Tortorella's first year. They obviously bring in Danny Briere as the brand new general manager. Keith Jones is the president. And they get a little bit better the coming year. They draft Matvei Michkov. They draft Oliver Bonk. They start seeing some positive names come up there, and things are starting to look good for them. And in 23-24, they overachieved. 38, 33, and 11 for 87 points. They were 21st in the NHL that year. They obviously were in a playoff spot for like 95% of the season, but the 5% they weren't in a playoff spot was when it completely mattered, and they missed the playoffs. And I for some reason was like predicting and had a feeling this was going to happen the entire way through. And there you go. They missed the playoffs that year. It was a year where I really felt like they were going to be bad, but they weren't bad. And then this year, they were definitely much worse. They were 33, 39, and 10 for 76 points. They were 29th in the NHL, so they were fourth worst. They had a almost 10-point decrease from last season, actually over a 10-point decrease from last season. They scored 238 goals, allowed 286 for a minus 48 difference. I mean, overall, it was a brutal year. You guys heard me come on here multiple times and talk about just how, with the Flyers, I believed like they were just too bad to really be like a first overall pick contention type of team, and they were too good to be they were too good to be first overall contention team. They were too bad to make the playoffs. You guys can tell that I'm lost here. This team, for me, they're my favorite team. They make me a little bit crazy. They drive me crazy, and this year has been very frustrating. But it's looking up for the future, hopefully. They were 20, 20, and 1 at home. They were 13, 19, and 9 on the road. So overall, their home and road records are about what I expected. They had a 2.83 goals for per game, which was 24th, and they had a 3.45 goals against per game, which was 28th. So obviously their numbers there were not good. They had some of the worst goalie save percentages in the entire NHL this past year. Their power play was once again awful. They had a 14.5 power play percentage, which is 30th. They had a 77.6 PK, which was 20th, so their PK was slightly better, but it wasn't that much better. Overall, it was just a terrible year in Philadelphia. There was a couple of positives, but there overall really wasn't that many, honestly. Overall, it was just a very rough year from the Flyers, and I felt like, things really needed to improve here in the draft and free agency over the next couple of years if they want to even come close to contention. I think they're closer now than they were last year, but overall, it's a very down season. They fire John Tortorella, or they fire Rocky Thompson. They get rid of like almost the entire coaching staff. You have Rick Tocchet as the brand new head coach. You're going to move on from some players here in the offseason, and throughout this past season, they did that too. Times are changing here in Philadelphia, and it feels very weird. Their leading scorer, though, was Travis Konecny. I can almost guarantee you he is not going anywhere. He played 82 games this past year, 24 goals, 52 assists for 76 points. The assists and points were first on the team this past year. Konecny, for me, even on like a really bad Flyers team this year, still had a career season, I believe. I believe he ranged about 10 more points than he did last year, which is good considering the fact that he signed that big 8-year contract. In the last offseason, he has a career high year this year. He looks like he's only going to get better. There were points this season where he was like top 10 in points, which is insane to think for somebody who was on a really bad team this year. And I think that's a major positive that Flyers fans can take away from here heading into this coming year. If you can get some guys to surround Travis Konecny, maybe he can get you a 90-point season here and there. I don't know. That's definitely not impossible there for Konecny for sure, but was probably the best player for Philadelphia this past year. Second was Matvei Michkov, the rookie, the highly touted rookie player here from Russia, came over this year after unexpectedly terminating his contract with SKA, and here he is. 80 games played, 26 goals, which is first on the team, 37 assists, 63 points. Wasn't easy for Michkov this year, but overall having a good 60-point season, still not good enough to get him first place in the point range, which is just shows like how good this class really is overall in terms of rookies. But Michkov was phenomenal this year for the Flyers. The hype was real. The recognition was really real. And I think, honestly, Michkov is going to be a very talented and very good player here when he comes to Philadelphia next season. I think he's going to be even better. And I think hopefully we have some guys to surround him alongside that we possibly pick up in the offseason. Sean Couturier was third in scoring, 79 games played, 15 goals, 30 assists, 45 points. I definitely thought Couturier got a little bit better than he was last year. Last year was just such a struggle for him and was a struggle for a lot of players on this team. Couturier, definitely his first year back. This year's been a little bit better. I think there's still some concern about trading your captain or anything like that. I think there is some concern there. But overall, Couturier has been still a very good player regardless of that. And I think he has a lot to look forward to heading into next year. And he can probably get better getting outside of that bad system that John Tortorella carried. Tyson Foerster was fourth in scoring, 81 games played, 25 goals, 18 assists for 43 points this past year as well. Foerster was a very good player this year. It looks like they're talking about a big contract extension. I don't know too much about it currently, but Foerster is looking like he's going to be very exciting. He's one of those major young positive players there on Philadelphia, and I think he's going to be somebody to watch out for here next season and the following years as well. He's what I'm really looking forward to. Owen Tippett, who was really good last year, but struggled mightily this year. 77 games played, 20 goals, 23 assists for 43 points this past year. Tippett had a good season. I think there's nothing really bad to take away other than just some slumps. I think overall he had some really bad slumps over the course of the year, and I think that really kind of pushed him away. But overall, I think there is some good things to take out of his season. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if he is traded. I wouldn't be shocked at the slightest. There's some speculation about that on Twitter, but Twitter is not always the most reliable source. But I think overall, Tippett, I think there's room to improve, but it wasn't a bad year. I think this is kind of what we're going to expect from him. Last year, I felt like was an overachieving year. Like just about almost anybody else on this Flyers team, they overachieved. Bobby Brink next up then in scoring, 79 games played, 12 goals, 29 assists, 41 points. Brink was solid this year. I thought Bobby Brink took a really good step in becoming a good, solid second liner. I really like Brink's game. I think he's taken a big step, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do next year. Noah Cates. There hasn't been a lot of positives this year in Philadelphia besides a select couple of players, and Cates has been a major positive. 78 games played, 16 goals, 21 assists, 37 points. His offensive and defensive game are just absolutely unmatched, and I think it's a big positive to take away there from this season with the Flyers. Cates was a really good player. Ryan Poehling, 68 games played, 12 goals, 19 assists, 31 points. Not a bad year out of a third or fourth line player. I thought he was all right. Travis Sanheim really had, last year was a great year for him. He improved offensively. This year, I fear, he kind of fell back to earth. 82 games played, 8 goals, 22 assists, 30 points. I think we look at last year, and last year was an overachieving year for that entire team. I think what we saw from Sanheim this year and last year is probably going to be somewhere in the middle for what he's going to be in the coming seasons. But I think he's a good number 2 defenseman. I think we're going to need somebody else as our number 1 to possibly draft. Schaefer would have been really nice, but it's not in the cards this year. But Sanheim, I think, is going to look good next season for sure. And then Garnet Hathaway, 67 games played, 10 goals, 11 assists, 21 points. He's always worked hard. He's a work hard forward. He's a workhorse. A good player there. I had nothing really bad to say about Hathaway. And yeah, that's your top 10 in scoring. You look at the goaltenders, so I'm going to be blunt with you, were just terrible. It was a really bad year for almost all of these goalies. Sam Ersson, 22, 17, and 5 with a 3.14 and a .883. It's amazing how that's the best. A .883 is the best on this team. A .883. Are we serious right now? Ivan Fedotov, 6, 13, and 4, a 3.15 and a .880. I mean, I'll be honest with the Fedotov. I have some more. I mean, again, going back to Ersson, he wasn't terrible, but like I feel like defensively the team wasn't great either. But Ersson got to get better next year. Fedotov, I will say, he had some pretty damn good games in there that were only like maybe 1 or 2 goal games. But overall, just, like games that he just shit the bed in really kind of brought down his stats. And then Alexei Kolosov, 5.9 and 1, a 3.59 and a .867. If they decide to move on from Kolosov, I'll be very happy. I've heard the rumors on Twitter and social media saying that he's not going to come back next year. I am perfectly fine with that. I'm not a big fan of this guy whatsoever. I wasn't really a fan of him to begin with at the beginning of last season when he was like, I want this. I want guaranteed NHL playoff time. No, you weren't good, so you can F off back to wherever team you played for before us. No. The trades that they made this past season, a lot of them, I would say, honestly, really weren't that bad of trades. So the first one, they traded Andrei Kuzmenko and Jacob Pelletier along with a 25 second and a 28 seventh. They acquired that from the Calgary Flames in exchange for Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost. Now, from a locker room chemistry and fan perspective, this sucked. I liked Farabee and Frost a lot. It sucks they couldn't work out here. Joel Farabee was drafted in the first year I was a Flyers fan. I followed him all the way through my hockey viewing experience. I've loved Farabee. It sucks he's not going to be here anymore, but if I'm being blunt, him and Frost just didn't work out. Frost looked better, but I think, again, you saw how they were in Calgary. They really weren't that good. Kuzmenko was all right with us, and then we traded him to LA. I'll get into that in a moment. And then Jacob Pelletier was all right. I think, again, under Tortorella, he wasn't a big fan, but he got better after Tortorella left. And then a 2nd and 7th, and helps the future assets, I guess. But overall, it felt like a lose-lose type of deal, especially after what Philadelphia traded Kuzmenko for. They dealt him to LA for a 25 7th in exchange for a 3rd and 27. Kuzmenko could have gotten you a 2nd-round pick. If Anthony Beauvillier got you a 2nd-round pick, Kuzmenko could have gotten you a 2nd-round pick. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that one. You can take it what you will, I guess, but there's that. They also traded Scott Laughton and a 25 4th and a 27 6th to Toronto in exchange for Nikita Gurbankin and a 1st-round pick. Gurbankin looked phenomenal for the Flyers. In the Phantoms, I've watched him play this year as somebody who's a local guy and a big Flyers fan myself. He's been awesome. And I think, honestly, getting a 1st out of that, too, is, it's diabolical, in my opinion. But losing Laughton sucks. It hurts. He was there for so long, a long-time Philadelphia Flyer, one of my favorites with the team. It sucks to see him go, but it's part of the business. It's going to happen to everybody on this team at some point. But overall, Laughton, best wishes to him in Toronto moving forward. And then the last trade they made, it wasn't a big one, but it was still one that I think is worth mentioning. They traded Eric Johnson to Colorado in exchange for Giovanni Smith. Honestly, I thought this was a really good move. With what Eric Johnson said about Philadelphia afterwards made me feel really good as a fan, saying that they're building really good things here. I really like that from him, and I have a lot of respect from him, and so do Flyers fans now. He was a 7th defender here. He wasn't really a big guy, but he said in his thing, he's like, hey, I love my job. I loved coming here. I loved coming to work every single day. And I love to hear that. And Giovanni Smith wasn't that bad with the Phantoms, was okay. So overall, they did pretty good on the trade front. They won most of the trades they made, except for, I'd say, the Kuzmenko one maybe, but overall they were good from that perspective. Just don't ask how the on-ice product was. So look into the AHL, you have the Phantoms, who went 36, 28, 6-2 for 80 points this past year. They were 19th in the NHL. They defeated Wilkes-Barre in round 1. They lost to Hershey in round 2. They damn near got it done against Hershey, but they couldn't beat the Calder Cup champions. Their season is done, so is Hershey's, though, so at least you can take that away as a Flyers fan. Ole Lycksell led the Phantoms in scoring, 43 goals, 19 assists, or 43 games played, 19 goals. I always make that error at some point. 25 assists for 44 points this past year. Lycksell was great. He played with the Flyers this past year, a couple of games. Jacob Gauthier, 70 games played, 20 goals, 18 assists, 38 points. Gauthier also played with the Flyers this year too, scored his first NHL goal. Honestly, a good look there from him. Anthony Richard, 42 games played, 17 goals, 19 assists, 36 points. They're going to try and get Richard a spot next year. He looked pretty damn good at points this year with the Flyers. Same with a guy like Emile Andre. Like, there are some real positives to take away here from the Phantoms and just the young guys from Philadelphia. It's a matter of bringing them up for the full year next year and seeing how they pan out. And then Rodrigo Abels, 68 games played, 15 goals, 17 assists, 32 points. With Philly as well. Played games this past year. I saw his NHL debut. Didn't look too bad. Scored some goals too. And then Zayd Wisdom, 68 games played, 13 goals, 19 assists, 32 points. You look at those guys. I will say, like, 4 of the 5 played games with the Flyers this year. So that shows the development that's going on there in Philadelphia. And with the Phantoms as well. And I think that's a major positive to take away from there. And I will say, what's weird with the Phantoms and with the Royals and with every team with the Flyers, they're all undergoing new coaching regimes. Now, the Flyers obviously fired John Tortorella. They're bringing in Rick Tocchet. The Phantoms let go of Ian Lapierre. He's still with the organization, but in a higher role, and they're going to get somebody there to fill in that spot too. And then the Royals just fired Jason Binkley as the coach of them. You guys know that I've been covering them this past year. I haven't talked about that too much. I'll be making summer content on that. But overall, they're bringing in somebody new from there, too. It's interesting to see that they're bringing in a whole new coaching regime in all 3 systems in the pros. It's kind of wild. And then you look at the pipeline. The pipeline with Luchenko, Bonk, Zvragin, and a couple of the guys here. Let's just hop right in. First off, Luchenko, 46 games played, 21 goals, 35 assists, 56 points. They played 4 games in the NHL this past year. It's kind of wild that Luchenko came here and boom, he made the team out of camp. Didn't do a ton in those 4 games, but I think again for an NHL guy or a guy like that coming straight from the OHL, didn't have a lot of experience. Honestly, I'm not like too, worried about it. I think he looked good in the American Hockey League with the Phantoms. Is a good. I mean, again, like, would I rather Zeev Boyum? 100%. But I think Luchenko can be a pretty damn good, third-line center at 12th overall. You guys can tell I'm trying to cope. He's a good, defensive type player. He can play good 2 ways. He's a good PK guy. He had the most assists in the AHL until the Phantoms were eliminated from the playoffs. So overall, Luchenko with some good qualities there as a good third-line center. But overall, I would have rather Zeev Boyum, obviously. Even still, though, he's going to be good. Oliver Bonk, 52 games played, 11 goals, 29 assists, 40 points. Still good with the London Knights. I think next year has to be the year he comes over and plays. I think otherwise, I don't know. But I've seen him play in the NHL. I think he needs a full season of the AHL. But overall, Bonk, a good offensive defenseman. We'll see what he can do next season. Igor Zvragin. This is somebody I'm really looking forward to. And we're going to be following him in the prospect previews, which, yes, I'm going to be doing that fully this year. The prospect pool overviews is what I meant to say. But Zvragin, 17, 11, and 3, a 2.55 and a .912 in the KHL this past year. He's exciting. He's going to be very exciting when he comes over to the NHL. He won't be for maybe 1 or 2 more years, but man, he's looking like a really highly touted goaltending prospect. Nikita Gurbankin, 50 games played, 12 goals, 18 assists, 28 points with the Phantoms and the Marlies. He also played games in the NHL this past year, which created the famous back check, forecheck, paycheck quote. Gurbankin could be an NHLer next year. That's how good he is. He's like a guy who can score, but he can also be a little bitch as well. So looking forward to seeing what Gurbankin's going to be able to do here with the Phantoms and the Flyers next season. And then Alex Bump, straight out of the NCAA. 42 games played, 23 goals, 24 assists for 47 points as well. Bump is going to be very exciting. That is a really good pickup there. From the 5th round in 2021. That was a really good pickup. So let's see how Bump can do, and hopefully he will become a really good player in the future. Again, some of those guys will be down with the Phantoms next season. It's exciting. It's an exciting pipeline, but it needs to get better. It's not all carved out in stone. Hopefully the 6th overall pick will help out get somebody really good, and then the following year they'll get somebody big in that draft too. And who knows, maybe you can trade for somebody as well. It's all up in the air right now. But what we know is that once the Cup final ends, the Flyers are probably going to be working the phones a lot to try and make some moves. And you look at their draft capital, it doesn't surprise you. 3 first-round picks, one of them being their own, the other being Colorado and Edmonton. So one of those picks is still being determined as of right now, where exactly that's going to be. But the other 2 are pretty decent. Colorado's is like 20th overall, I think. That's not terrible. And then they have 4 second-round picks. Anaheim, Columbus, and Calgary along with their own. They have a 3rd. They have 2 5ths, one of them being Carolina's, and a 6th-round pick as well. I am going to say this right now. They need to trade one of those seconds for something. Like, they need to. I look at Isaac Howard, and I see that guy out there who's probably not going to be with Tampa next year. He's going to be with some other team. Do it. If you traded away Cutter Gauthier for a second, Isaac Howard for a second, or even for like Edmonton's first, I'm okay with that too, honestly. So, like, overall, I believe that you got to do something there with those second round picks. I get it. Maybe keep 1 or 2 of them. The Anaheim pick is high. Your pick is also high too. But like you can't be keeping all these, and they're actually all decently high too. All those teams missed the playoffs, so they're not like bad picks. But even still, like you can't be drafting that many players. Like, you don't have enough room in the pipeline for that many guys. And I know not all of them are going to pan out, but even still, trade them for somebody who you know will pan out. But even then, who knows? You look at their UFAs and RFAs to wrap up the video. You have Giovanni Smith and Ole Lycksell as your UFAs. I would imagine they keep Lycksell, led the AHL in scoring. Smith, we'll see. The jury's still out. If they keep him, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm not sure. And then your RFAs, you have some good names here. Jackson Cates, Noah Cates, Tyson Foerster, Jacob Pelletier, and Cam York. I can tell you right now, Foerster and the Flyers are close. There may be a video coming up on the channel about that soon. And then Cates, look like they're going to arbitration, which is going to be interesting. And then Pelletier, we'll see what happens there, and then we'll see what happens with York too. York had a pretty rough year. John Tortorella beat down on him a lot. I don't know if it's tarnished the relationship. It's definitely done something to it. Maybe with Taki coming here, York can get better, but I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen there. I'd imagine they keep him, but I guess we'll see. And yeah, that is your 2025 review of the Philadelphia Flyers. It was a rough season, that's for sure, but it was a year that I definitely think was a year that was needed for them to struggle like this. And now they have a lot to look forward to here in this upcoming draft. Maybe they can trade some of these picks. Maybe they can go big game hunting in the offseason. There's a ton of speculation here from the Flyers and what they're going to do. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe down below. I greatly appreciate it. But anyways, that's it for me. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.